I thought maybe it was time I tried to explain what I am up to here on this channel. I've had some complaints, negative comments, fortunately quite rare, but they seem to be people who don't really understand what I'm trying to do. And I'm just an old guy that has a lot of experience trying to fix stuff. And so I've come up with different solutions. Often I'm doing things on the fly. So if I can help you to come up with a good solution, I'm happy with that. If you like something I do, I'm happy with that as well. And even if I show you how you don't want to fix something or change something, then I'm also fine with that. I have a lot of experience, a lot of years trying to fix things. I'm not an expert at anything other than my career, which was repairing medical equipment. That I will claim to be an expert. Other than that, I'm not an expert at anything. So if you want to see how an amateur finds solutions, this is probably the channel for you. And if you want to find a way to not do something, this might be a channel for you as well. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks. Welcome to Not Factory Approved. The motorhome adventures continue. After putting 8,000 kilometers going across Canada and northern US, we're back home. And it took me quite a while to find out, but one mechanic finally told me that the I Beam bushings, pivot bushings, were worn out, and that was his theory anyway, causing the front end to wiggle. So every time there's a cross draft, I would get a sudden pull one way or the other, or if a semi went by or a bus. So it was interesting, but I couldn't do anything about it because I didn't have a shop and nobody would touch it in less than a week. And I didn't want to stay in one place for a week and then have a couple days with no home. So we kept moving. We made it. Some days, most days are actually just fine. I got used to anticipating when it was going to suddenly dart one side or the other. So now I have to change those bushings. What I have found is that the left side has to lower first because the bolt for the right side, which you can see there, part way out, does not have enough room to clear the left-hand I-beam. So now I have to jack up the right-hand I-beam a little bit and make sure that I can get that bolt out. And then I'll do the right-hand side bushings. The stabilizer bar bushings are worn out as well. If you can see up there, they're a bit oval. And my hand is shaking because I'm stretched out and I'm old. There. Right by the peg that sticks out of the I-beam, which purpose I don't know. There's a worn out stabilizer bar bushing, so that doesn't help either. So I will jack up that I-beam a bit. As you can see, if you're careful, it doesn't come crashing down. I've got the jack stands to the very outside, as far as I can go. And it seems to be holding fine. Doesn't seem to be any sideways pressure on it. So I will keep working at that, jack that up a bit, get the bolt out, and then replace the bushings. It'll be easy, I'm sure. Let's see what happens. Here's my first effort, what it's going to be. This is part of an old hitch that I took apart because I needed some of it, and it was special, I think. I didn't have that vehicle anymore. So I did that. So I'll put a washer there. I've got this 5-inch bolt, and hopefully that's enough. So I put that through this bushing. So this will allow the bushing to come through. I have 2 washers on the opposite side to the I-beam. So it'll be, at present, I have the I-beam. This bushing is sitting in it, so the I-beam is running this way. Come back here. And this would go on the opposite side here to pull the bushing through with the bolt and the nut, and the effectively big washer, which is part of the 1/2 inch or 5/8 steel. On the other side, tighten it up, and it should, in theory, pull the bushing through. So let's see if that works. So there's the setup. Got the trailer hitch bar, 5/8 steel, one washer. It's a 1/2 inch bolt, 3/4 inch head. Same thing on the back. Only had enough thread for one washer. So that's what I'm gonna have to try. Let's see what happens. Now, if you can see, it's moving. I've moved it about 1/8 of an inch so far, with hardly any force at all. So it's pretty easy. Might even be able to hammer that out, but I'm going to use this anyway because this is far superior. And I have a 4-inch bolt when this one gets to be too long, if I don't have the bushing out already. As you can see by the rings on this washer, it was too big to go through the hole, which makes sense because it's definitely bigger than that. So now I'm going to try it with just the nut and the sleeve, of course, and that hopefully will pull it out, since it moved quite easily to start with. It's moved a bit, you can see up in there. I'm going to let it sit like that for a bit. I'm probably going to have to size the washer to fit exactly, so I can push against the steel jacket of the bushing. But in the meantime, I'm going to have some lunch, leave it with tension on it, see if it shifts at all while I'm having lunch. I put some penetrating oil in there too to try and lubricate it within the sleeve, which really not much is happening, but a little bit gets in there, it helps. I've got a washer now that'll fit in the hole in the I-beam, and now that this, not the original, has moved forward in the I-beam, should make it easier to get this to sit properly in the hole. So we'll see. When life is hard, some people get desperate. So the first 1/8 of an inch, this thing moved really easily. So, and then I couldn't get it to go any further. So I cut it down on the sides with this little tool of destruction. You need a fairly narrow blade. Metal cutting would be preferable. And I drove the screwdriver in, broke the rubber free. I'll get that piece out, and then I can see this to cut it, and then it should come out quite easily after that. Moving on. One thing I did find is that the bolts fit way tighter in the new bushings than they did in the old ones. Funny that. And there it is, gone. Shot right out as soon as I got the rubber out. But one thing I was not very careful about, apparently, is I cut a groove there. I don't think that's going to cause any trouble. And I'll clean that up, and I will put the new bushing in with some lubrication. And then I'll work on the stabilizer bar again, which is right there. Probably just cutting it out would be good. Getting the new one in would be more difficult, but I'm going to try the bolt and washer trick. I started this bushing in the hole. I've greased everything up, and I used the washers from when I did the radius arm bushings back there. They worked well. You just have to make sure that it clears this at the back. So I had to pry it down to make things centered, or it was trying to pull it in sideways, of course, because it was being pushed down at the back. So keep on going. I think I'm going to have to find a shorter bolt or thicker washers. Actually, I use that 5/8. That'll probably work. And then I can start drawing it in there. It has started. I can't wiggle it now, so it has started in the hole. So yesterday I was trying to replace the pivot bushing, the end of the I-beam, and I found something really interesting. That there was an update in these trucks to increase the bore size of the bolt that goes through the bushing. And these had a 5/8 inch sleeve, which is what the upgrade was, but it's using a 9/16 bolt. So either that was an update, a recall from Ford, and somebody put the wrong bolts back in, you can see that, or somebody at the factory was sleeping. Mostly the guy who ordered the bolts, and those who put them in weren't paying any attention. So this, not only is there a 1/16 of an inch play in the bushing, there's a 1/16 of an inch play in the mounting, in the frame, the bracket on the frame. So that's a whole lot of play on the end of an I-beam. So I had to order new ones, 5/8 ones, and I'll get some number 8 bolts. Can't get the factory bolts anymore, but number 8 should be more than strong enough. And then I will try and put those back in. I tried numerous times to get the 9/16 bushing in there before I realized what was going on, and I could not. So I get that the original bushing is a little bit, or the 5/8 bushing is a little bit smaller, the outside dimension, like a 64th of an inch. So we'll see when it comes if that's the case or not. Could be it's a Moog part that I've got, so it's not factory. So there could be a problem there in manufacture too. So we'll see. Anyway, today it's a little warmer. I gotta wait till Tuesday for that. And today's Saturday. Ordered it yesterday. So these are worn out. You can see they're oblong here from the sway bar. So I've replaced one there. That also is a Moog part. And it's a little bit longer than the original, which is good. And it's better material. It's not just rubber. So I think those should be a lot better. And I'll show you how I did it. So first, I'm going to take a screwdriver, a small one to start it, and get in behind that rubber and break the bond that it's got from being in there so long, sticking to the frame, or to the I-beam. And then I'll slowly work it away, and then the best way I found is to use this air grinder with a stone and get rid of the rubber that remains, because you can't ever get it out completely. So here goes. So you can see it's starting to break free. I'll work all the way around, driving it in. You have to be careful to get behind the shoulder, because this is not a perfectly straight bushing. It has a lip on it. So you have to get underneath that and past the shoulder of the mount, the sleeve that holds the rubber bushing, and then work your way around. So I've got a fairly large hammer. This is a skinny screwdriver, 1/4 inch or so, when I find it. There it is. It's about 1/4 inch. And then I got a bigger one that I'll follow that up with. Drive that in. And then I'll use the air grinder stone to get rid of any residual rubber that's left bound to the metal. Coming out in stages, bit by bit. This one came out a lot cleaner than the first one, but you can see it's still left some rubber behind. So, I think it's get in there or not. to get those off or I won't get the other bushing in. So now for the air grinder. So there it is. You can feel in there. A little bit of rubber left there. Otherwise it's all good. Trying to not to grind it out too much. I haven't. So a little bit more cleanup and I'll show you how I put the bushing in. You might notice it's a little more shiny than it was. I put silicone grease in there. And same with here. Now I use a 4-inch bolt with thick washers, wide washers, and I pull it in until it starts, and then I have to change to a 3-inch bolt. The bolts aren't threaded the whole way through, and I put the bolt in from inside out. Just makes it easier to handle the nut, get it started. I'll hook it all up. And there's the setup. It's just resting against the hole. You can see it's got a shoulder on it. So the first thing I have to do is to get it into that shoulder. Now, the problem with this method is it tends to pull in sideways. So I have to get it started and then use a screwdriver gently working around the outside to get the inner shoulder to pop in. So I'll tighten it up a bit, get some tension on it, not too much. And you'll have to figure out what's too much and then back off. So you can see a bit sticking out there. That's where I got to work it. Really hard to do one-handed. Oh, for a tripod that would hold this thing. Okay, I gotta use the hammer. It's popped in. It's up against the shoulder now, almost. So now I'll just keep cranking it. And as long as I can keep it even, then that shoulder will eventually pop through. That's what happened on the other side anyway, so let's keep going. But I'm gonna have to, I'll crank it a bit more and then I'm gonna have to put the 3-inch bolt in there. One thing that makes it a little easier, so I saved these washers from when I did the radius arm bushings. See at the back there. And they help to self-center. So the lesson is never throw nothing away. So I've got it in as far as I can now with that bolt, so I'll put the shorter bolt in. 2 stabilizer bar bushings changed. 2 stabilizer bar bushings. One there, and one there. That part's done. Now I just got the pivot bushings to get. And put some decent sized bolts in there. And hopefully it'll handle a whole lot better. Won't be wandering down the road every time somebody passes me. Finally it has started going in. See, it's a little bit thinner than it was before. So it's lined up now. I just have to keep working it in. So I gave up on the silicone grease. Just sparingly applied carefully applied the white grease, trying to keep it away from the rubber. And I'll wipe it all off afterwards. But keep working that in. I might have to get a shorter bolt yet. We'll see. Anyway, it started. So shortly I should have one of them in. And then I have to take out the other side. Although I might be tempted to, I'll look more carefully at the bushing. I may be tempted to just replace the bolt, since that is the real issue here, not the bushing. It has not gone as planned. That bushing would not go into that, the pivot bushing would not go into the hole in the I-beam. So I'm taking the I-beam out and I will take it to the press. If you don't have a press, then I think you're going to be faced with getting somebody to do it. But you can do all this work yourself first, unless somebody's got the special tool. That's another option. So you have to undo the radius arm, the back. You have to undo the shock absorber because it hangs up the I-beam. And the coil spring is loose on the bottom, so that'll just hang on that pin, that clamp there. And of course you have to take the wheel off and the brake caliper. And the brake caliper comes off with these two Allen screw. No, they're Torx. Look at that. An Allen screw worked in my ignorance, but that's not what you want to do. So that's a Torx. I was fortunate. So I finished getting the shock out of the way. Just give me some added clearance so I'm not bumping into stuff. And then I should be able to pull the I-beam forward on the jack and get it out of there. There it is, the beast. And now I gotta push that out, put another one in. Pain in the butt. And I may just take that disc and hub off, because the discs either have to be replaced or they have to be turned, because they've got a lot of warp to them. The pedal pulses like crazy in a hard stop. So the work continues. Good news is though, I think somebody's already put an adjuster in this. That's what it looks like anyway. Seems to be off center. Seems to have a cam in there. So let the work continue. Not what I had planned. I had to admit defeat. I ruined the one bushing trying to get it in with the bolt and spacer method, and I could not do it. And so I tried heating the end of the bar because it was quite cold outside, the I-beam, and I got it too hot and the bushing was trapped, and so it degraded the rubber. So I have to get a new bushing, which really impresses me. So this one is in now, but it took my 20-ton press to do it. You might be able to get away with a 10-ton. I think I was somewhere around half of its capacity. So it's a very hard press to get that in there, which meant I had to take the I-beam completely out. And I don't know what the factory recommends for this, but there's no way with my stuff I could do it unless I took it out. So there it is. And I took the massive disc off because this is already heavy enough for me. I'm not the man I used to be. I cannot lift this very easily. So I set it up on a ladder to get it, a step ladder to get it fairly flat. And then when you press it, if there's not too much swing there, then it will lift the I-beam on the far end and level it out automatically. But be very careful, because it's quite easy to jam this sideways and then you've got a real problem. So I had hoped there was an easier way that would not require heavy equipment, but I cannot do this without a press. One thing I realized I have to correct. So I was pretty sure when I took this apart, this shoulder was right against the edge of the I-beam. Maybe somebody installed it incorrectly, I don't know, but I've checked, and that bushing is supposed to be pretty much central. It's about 1/8 of an inch on the back and 1/4 inch on the front. And slight differences there won't make a difference, but this 1/4 inch difference I'm sure will, because it'll move the I-beam back at its pivot, which I would think would affect caster somewhat. So I'm going to put it back where it's supposed to be. So I set up the bushing so it's about equal distance between the outside edge here and the outside edge of the sleeve there. It's pretty much even. I haven't measured it, but I don't think it has to be that critical. It looks visibly the same. Same thing here. Seems to be about central to me. So now I'll put them back in. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, or even notify, or any of the above, or all of the above. Thank you.